Samsung just announced the latest in my favorite series of tablets, the brand new Tab S9. And it does have a few cool new tricks up its sleeves, so let's talk about why I bought the cheapest model. And this is my Tab S8. The S9 has not made its way here yet. Now, the Samsung Tab series has very recently become my favorite actually useful tablet. I've made a ton of videos about the S8, so despite the fact that I normally skew Apple, I don't know if you can see all this Apple stuff around here, I'm beyond excited for this new device to come in. Before we dive too deeply into that, let's quickly talk about ordering options and price if this is your first video learning about the newest and neatest tablet. The S9 comes in at a base model price of $799.99. Not cheap, and certainly not what most folks would want to spend on, I mean, let's admit it, a luxury additional device, but it's not overly expensive or overly priced in my opinion, and we will get a little more on why that is in just a second. The base model comes in with 128 gigabytes of storage and 8 gigabytes of RAM. I don't mind the RAM as much, but 128 gigabytes of storage on a device that post-taxes will near $1,000, that's pretty wild, and wild in a bad way, not like, woo, look how wild I am on my cool skateboard wild. Yes, Apple does the same thing with their 11-inch iPad Pro lineup, which also costs $799, so I can't go too crazy on Samsung here, but dang, both y'all figure your lives out. There is a paid option to go up to 256 gigabytes of storage and 12 gigabytes of RAM, bringing that price up to $919. And one thing I noticed when I purchased my model is you get bumped up to that higher storage memory option for free if you pre-order it before it's officially released. I'm not sure how long that will last post-release, so if that's something you're really interested in, it might be worth picking up right now. Another thing that they may carry over from last year is in the Tab S8, there's a micro SD card slot, so you can get a little additional storage on here, which is better than what Apple does, because you can't do that on Apple tablets. Let's move on to the new things this year compared to last year's model and the things that I am most excited about. And easily the most useful upgrade year over year is the Tab S9 is now slightly ruggedized. No, it doesn't come with a cool mil-spec case on it, but what it does have is a new IP68 rating. I won't go too in-depth on IP ratings or what they mean, but quick overview, the two numbers mean two different kinds of ingress protection, IP. The first digit covers solids, dust, etc., and a 6 means it's dust tight. The second digit covers liquids, and the 8 means, quote, protected against the effects of continuous immersion in water, unquote. That's pretty standard on phones these days, but is pretty unique among tablets, which is why I say it's the most useful upgrade, because that directly impacts where and when you can break out the old Tab for movie watching or actual work. Everything else we're going to talk about are nice to haves that make it a little nicer to use. This new IP label is actually pretty darn useful. The next major upgrade, and sure, it's the one that most are probably aware of and talking about this year, but the entire Tab lineup from the regular to Plus to Ultra, I just realized how My Hero Academia Samsung's labeling is. The whole lineup now has AMOLED screens. Last year, the regular Tab was LCD, while the rest had the nice displays. So this year, we should be getting much deeper blacks and some additional brightness and HDR capabilities out of this screen. Plus, it also has a new feature called Vision Booster, which is supposed to make sure that you can see everything perfectly, even in direct sunlight. Now, that sounds like magic to me, but I'm always on board when companies try to ensure that I don't have to be trapped in my basement, which this is a basement. I'm currently trapped here. If you don't have to be trapped here to see tech displays. I do have a concern about this new tech inside the Tab S9, battery life. Yes, Samsung says the S9 is supposed to have 15 hours of battery life, but one of the trade-offs for nicer screens is that said screens generally need more horsepower and more juice to keep running. The Tab S9 this year will get a slightly bigger battery compared to the Tab S8 of 8400 versus 8000 mAh batteries, so hopefully that's enough to offset additional power demands. But the only way we'll know for sure is after we get some hands-on time. The next major update comes from the processor. Last year's S8 came with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, which was perfectly fine, but this year we've got the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Maybe it's just me, but that seems like a really confusing way to label your processors. That's like how they did the last Harry Potter movie. It was like Harry Potter 7 Part 1 and 2. We haven't been able to run benchmarks on this tablet yet, and probably won't because who cares about tablet benchmarks, but from other outlets, I've seen that this looks to be a modest increase in overall power. So if you are someone for whom bar charts going up is a must, well, here you go. The main thing I'm really hoping to see in the latest processor is more efficiency. That's the one thing that Apple has that has allowed them to rule the roost in the mobile marketplace. Their chips are very powerful, but what really matters is they squeeze every drop of battery life from their hardware. That makes me much more likely to use their products because I hate having to think about battery life when I'm also trying to think about all the other stuff I have to do during a workday. I got too much work to do in a day to worry about whether the battery's gonna die in my tech. A bigger battery combined with a more efficient processor would make me feel just so much better after a day of using the S9. I'm actually very excited to see how it plays out. And the last update that I'm concerned with, and by concerned I mean excited about, is the included S Pen is supposed to be even better to work with. A little better on the latency front and a little better with the pressure sensitivity. That's all good news to me. Personally, I think the S Pen is the best digital pencil that I've ever seen. I love this thing. I don't use the Apple Pencil that much, but I love using the S Pen because it actually feels like writing with a pen. And I write with a pen all the time. Plus, it's sized like the pens that I normally use. It's not some big honkin' Apple Pencil. Plus, this little button on the side lets you cycle through tips, take photos, and other stuff. It's just, I love this. The S Pen is just a darn good pen. At the end of the day, the Tab S9 certainly looks to be a pretty significant update to my favorite tablet of all time, and hopefully it should get here soon so we can start playing around with it. But what about you? Did you pre-order an S9, or are you sticking with what you've got? Let me know in the comments below, and click here if you need a new tablet today and you just cannot wait. Click, 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 click. Thanks for watching.